Hey, what's up guys? I have another knife review. Today we're talking about the Columbia River Knife and Tool Eraser. Now if you're one of these viewers who are up to date and you happen to watch the videos the second they come out, which is awesome, you'll know that yesterday I put up a teaser video. A trolling video. Trolling. I don't purposely troll. Actually, I didn't even do that on purpose. Well, yeah, I purposely made the video, but I wasn't intentionally going to make a video teaser. What happened was I started the video like that, and then the battery died before I can even get into the beginning of the review. All I did was the cute little intro with Gus. Anyway, today is the actual review. Yes, this is an awesome knife, and actually I pulled the CRKT Foresight out here as well because I want to show these next to each other. I've always been a CRKT fan. I like every knife company. There's not a knife company out there I do not like, and I think all knife companies have something to offer. Some more than others and for different reasons. What CRK does for me, and what they've been very consistent with since the very beginning of being a company, are two major things that I'm interested in. First is the versatility and the creativity. Okay, the innovation you see from their company, working with all these different custom makers, doing these collaboration knives, you know, new opening mechanisms, new locking styles, just funky stuff, weird stuff, innovation. It's amazing. The other big pro is affordability. I would very much classify CRKT as being a blue-collar knife company. Okay, they don't cater to the you know, uber rich. They don't have cheap knives either. Some of their knives are more affordable. They're on, you know, really low end as far as price goes, and some are a little bit more expensive. But they're all reasonable. None of them are really quote-unquote dream knives. You know, they're all within reach if you you know, save up your money for them. But what I really like about these two in you know, recent time is that they've really kind of expanded into these bigger, robust, you know, hardcore, hard use folders, and I love it. I mean, CRKT, just generally speaking, from my opinion, in past has made, although awesome knives, somewhat on the smaller side, and I love seeing these added to the collection, you know, and in production. Just amazing, and this one really blows me away, and I'm going to do a review on this still. I know I did a bunch of videos on it showing it, but the full review is coming out soon. It's just one of my favorites. You don't have to pay an arm and a leg to really have a knife that you can really, really enjoy and it can perform. But close to it, in my opinion, is the Eraser. Very, very cool, really nice hard use folder. So let's get right into the review. Speaking of hard use, it's hefty. 6.2 ounces on this. I know if you're weird and you're like, I have this specific rule that if a knife's over 3.5 ounces, I'm never gonna buy it. Well, you're missing out, because this one's a cool one. What's contributing to the weight here, obviously the size has something to do with it. G10 handle scales on here, which are very smooth. I'll talk about that a little bit later. The bolsters are 420 J2 stainless steel. That's going to contribute some weight, as well as full liners, steel liners. You can see the reflection in there that they are not skeletonized. And some of you might be watching thinking, why didn't they do that, man? Why didn't they forgot? No, they didn't forget. It's part of the design. There's a lot of thought that goes into these. They don't just whip one up, you know? Knife companies actually think about what they're doing before they actually make something. And of course, they consult with different custom makers and they're looking for a different appeal, you know, an overall package. So if you're someone specifically looking for, let's say, a knife with a thumb stud, this doesn't have a thumb stud, you know, and you're like, I'm a thumb stud guy, then fine, this knife isn't for you. It doesn't mean it's not good. It's just not what you're looking for. There's a lot of people who are looking for this exact package, okay? And that's when you're looking at any type of knife, folding, fixed blade, whatever, as a tool, it's the whole package. What you're gonna use it for, if it's in your price range, you know, if it's gonna be ergonomic for your hands, you know, things like that. But anyway, this is a really interesting one. Just out of the gate, I mean, without even knowing anything about it, it's cool looking. It really is cool looking. Very intimidating. That blade just, I mean, if you take away the tip, very reminiscent of a straight razor. Just this back end and the organic lines you have here. Just really cool. And it is a high hollow ground blade as well, so that, I mean, that's why it's also reminiscent of a straight razor. But anyway, 3.9 inches on the blade length. Hey, guess what? That means it's going to be good to carry in all those states where you have a 4-inch blade limit. And that's not by mistake. Yes, some thought goes into this stuff. Let's make it as big as we can, but let's make it legal for as many people as possible. A+. So that's really cool. There is another version of this which is all blacked out, and of course you have the combo edge on that one as well if you're looking for that specific style. I like this one. I prefer plain edge blades. I can do serrations. Some companies I like more than others. They're, you know, what they do for serrations, but generally speaking, if I have the opportunity, I will go for a plain edge. However, combo edge blades or even fully serrated blades, they're not always like a no-go. Some people, it's just nope, nope, nope. If there's serrations, I'm not interested. I'm versatile. You know, I can use them, but I don't prefer to have them on there. And if I do have serrations, I've talked this before, I'd like a fully serrated blade to be more effective, but that's just totally personal preference. Nice satin finish on this. Beautiful satin. Real clean lines. I slowly get that light to glare across. You can see the grind lines on the blade. Very consistent, very even. Really, really nice. Interesting blade style here. We have the reverse tanto or tanto. But if you notice here, from the spine, you actually have an organic curvature. And really the spine of the blade is a recurve, but in a unique way. Now I'm exaggerating this, but the top spine here actually dips down and goes back up. It's not like a smiley face, it's not that obvious, but if you look really closely, dips down, comes back up at this peak here, and then you have a complete angle change. And then you have kind of a little rainbow going on. Very, very slight. And on the front end, obviously our cutting edge is a very slight curve. Okay, it's not flat. It's almost like a combination between a reverse tanto and a Warncliffe blade. So really interesting, very unique. It comes to a nice point here. Now if I cant the knife, put it here behind my tripod, if I cant it and cover up the bottom here, let me take it so it's almost off screen and get it to glare a little bit. If I can maneuver because it's going in the tripod. There we go. So if I turn the knife and you didn't see the knife at all, you could see the actual tip is very reminiscent to a spear point blade. Okay, not a perfect triangle, but yes, there's a triangular type point there. All right, so as far as penetration, it's going to aid with that. Now, by the way, this knife as a whole is a little bit, you know, more geared towards being a better performer with penetration in a lot of different ways. The blade style, the somewhat acute tip, the fact that you have this kind of exaggerated swedge all the way from the top of the spine here, which is nice. Adds for a nice thinner profile there for penetration. And the biggest thing here is the huge kind of you know, crescent moon shape here. You have a very deep finger choil. All right, obviously it's a flipper design, also liner lock with the lock system as I say. But we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, as far as ergonomics here, deep finger choil, and then you have a kind of a pinky choil here as well. But when you get your hand in there, it locks in really, really nicely. All right. And that will also aid with penetration. That's why it's kind of coming deeper here. What I also like about this as well is when you have the handle, I mean the overall design here, our edge is way down here without having such a fat or wide blade. But when the handle, there's actually more cut out of it. What happens is you kind of get this, let me see if I can get a good angle there. There we go. You kind of get this kitchen knife type situation. Like think of like a really big chef's knife, where your cutting edge is actually almost in line with the tops of your fingers. All right, meaning you have an advantage when you're cutting down on something, your fingers aren't always in the way. With other knives, this one is not, yeah, see this one's a little bit different. Look at the difference here, where, well, obviously this has a big recurve in it, but at the lower point here, see how this, if I were to run this straight across, my edge for the most part's right here, right? If I run it straight across, it comes below my fingers, which means I can't, if I were to cut something on a table, my hands kind of get in the way. I mean, not that you would do that, that's exaggerated, you know, to show you what I'm talking about here, but, you know, if I were to come down or something, my hand's kind of in the way of that cutting edge. Now you could solve this by having a wider blade or wider knife overall, or you can do what they did here and bring that handle shape back. So you still have somewhat of a narrow blade, but you can definitely get lower. And I don't want to bang this because I don't want to hit the table, but it's just a different profile overall. So I like that. It's a nice advantage. Let's see what else. In the reverse grip, it's also very, very comfortable. Now when I naturally grab this knife, I have kind of a looser open grip here. Okay, so I'm kind of like, I'm not in this little section here. I'm kind of bringing my pinky back over this butt portion of the knife, and also doing somewhat of a natural grip here with the thumb on top. Now there's no jimping on this, and the finish is actually pretty smooth. All right, again, this is where someone out there is gonna go, nope, not for me. I like this and I like that. That's cool. There's a million knives out there to choose from, but I'm just reporting what I've experienced with this one. However, because of this deep finger choil here, and even the secondary choil for your pinky area, your hand really locks in if you bring your fingers together. If you have a loose grip, obviously you're all over the place and it's an open grip. But if you come in tight, and I have fairly large hands, they're not a bunch of bananas or anything, but my hands fit just fine. You can see how that contours to my fingers. The finger choil is right here. As I bring my fingers down, that pinky is right where it should be, and that other choil, and it locks in great. And in fact, in this grip, if I were to choke up real tight, I'd want to wrap my thumb around. If I was doing cutting like this, I would use this grip, and I have a lot of control. I mean, there's no way this knife is coming out of my hand. All right, plus the extension here from the flipper. I mean, it really feels very secure. I can do a lot of, actually this would be more suited for some bushcraft work. And I wouldn't consider it a bushcraft blade at all, but of course it would get the job done if you're doing something like that. But this type of cutting chore, where as opposed to if I'm cutting open a box, I might have more of a grip like this, where I'll use the thumb for support on top, or even in most cases, I'll end up doing kind of a looser grip like this and using the pointer finger up here to kind of get that tip in. And a lot of times when you're ripping boxes open, you are really just using the tip of your knife. That's why people ask me all the time, what's a great EDC blade? And I'll give them an example of something, and I'll say like, oh, maybe, a Delica, or, why don't you look at, in a lot of cases, I'm referring people to the Foresight as a fantastic knife. And sometimes they'll say it's too big, or sometimes they'll say it's too small. And oftentimes when people say, well, no, it's too small, I want a bigger knife. And my follow-up question to that is, what do you need a bigger knife for? And then they don't have anything specific in mind. Oh, well, I want just more blade to cut more stuff. What are you doing most of your night? Well, I'm kind of opening boxes and I'm doing this and that. And I'm like, next time you cut something, look at what you're using with your knife. Look at how you're cutting it. Most of the time when you're cutting a box, you don't start from the heel of the blade. A lot of times you're only using about an inch or so of the tip, if that. In most cases, you're only using about an eighth of that tip. What are you doing is scoring the tape in the middle of a box. I mean, for the most part, unless you're really cutting into the box. But it's interesting to look at your knives and as you're using them. You have an idea in your mind of what you want and how you want to use them. But next time you're cutting something, really be conscious of how much of your blade you're using, what kind of cutting. Are you push cutting? Are you slicing? What are you doing with your knives? So you can pinpoint what's going to work best for you. But of course, more blade is more versatile. I always, if you can get away with a bigger blade, I always suggest a bigger blade. There's very few cases where it's cumbersome. It's more rare to have a big knife and want a small blade as opposed to having a small knife and want something bigger. So yeah, if you have to pick, bigger's better. But speaking of size, also 5 inches close, if I didn't already mention that. I like the flipper on this. There's a heavy detent, and I want you to listen carefully here. You can hear that very audible click. Click. And you can kind of see the tension I'm putting on this. I mean, the big thing with this is it's a deep detent, so you are not going to shake this blade out. All right. So if you're one of those people who's used to your $5 knife and you just whip your blade out, yeah, I'm sure you can mess with the pivot to do that, but you wouldn't want to do that because you'd create blade play. Awesome detent. Now what this aids in, being a flipper style knife, is you're building up a lot of tension. Okay, so when that finally does release, it's going to push out faster because you're pushing down harder. All right, so the building up of the tension is what's actually going to give you a great flipper design in general. Now with this knife, you don't really need much of like a wrist flick to get it open. Of course, it will always aid in doing that. But when using the flipper, instead of just pushing down, because this is actually somewhat of a larger flipper. Some people may like that. I haven't really experienced any problem with it. I do like some of the more low profile ones. However, it's kind of a tricky area because once it gets a little bit too small, it's hard to get to. So I guess in this case, it's better to be a little bit big than too small. But a lot of tension builds up. But anyway, with something like this, you don't want to necessarily just pull down with it like this because you're not going to get it all the way open. It'll always come short. I mean, in this case, obviously you get a little wrist flick in there and it's going to be fine. But if you want to have your hand stationary, instead of bringing it down all the way, what you want to do is you want to push more in and then down. Okay, so instead of just down, go in and down. It'll pop right out. So very nice. Obviously a liner lock. Pretty good lockup. There's no blade play at all in this one, and it's really surprising. I mean, I didn't mention it yet. I usually like mentioning it at the end so people don't right away write something off for being expensive or being cheap. But these go for about $75 online, most places, both styles. For $75, there's a lot of different factors that I look for in a knife to kind of compare them to things I've had before. And blade play, honestly, even in a $75 range, could be an issue. And with this one, there's no blade play at all. It locks up like a bankful. I mean, really just no vertical, no horizontal. You can do the whole circle thing. Just, you know, if you hold your blade stationary and you go in circles, you'll be able to test both those at the same time. Or you can do them independently, side to side, up and down, but there's nothing. I mean, it's awesome. But in addition, what I really like about CRKT stuff is a lot of their models have this lock system, LAWKS. What I don't like about this specific design is the fact that it's hard, and obviously it's supposed to be operable with one hand. That's why it's right on top here, okay? But you have to, it's hard to get to. This is the only hit on this knife. Let me show you this view here. It's very even with the frame. All right, and the knurling on this is not too aggressive. It could be because it's black and it's coated. Maybe when it was stainless, it was more aggressive. But just naturally with the thumb, it's hard to get to. So instead of just having your thumb here and gliding up, what I suggest you do, and I get it very consistently by doing it this way, is I push, again, just like the flipper, instead of going forward with it, I go down behind it first. Then that grips the pad of my thumb. Then it's easy to move. But what this does do, if you're not familiar with it, is it brings, when this goes up, it brings a bar down so that the liner does not go over. All right, so your liner locks the blade, obviously, by pushing up on the tang. But this prevents your lock. It's locking your lock, so it's a fail-safe. So it turns into virtually a fixed blade. It's rare that your liner locks can get pushed over to begin with, but it's even more rare now because there's actually an obstruction there. So if you were really going to do some heavy work, you can use that. Now, a lot of people don't like the auto locks. Now, the auto locks, basically, there's a spring system in there. So once the blade is opened completely, this secondary lock automatically engages. I also will agree with that. Generally speaking, I love the locking mechanism, but I don't like the auto locks. I prefer the manual because in this case, if I don't want to use it, it stays in a down position and I never have to touch it. I open the knife, I close the knife, it's never in the way. With the auto locks, for some people, they can't get used to just pulling it down first, then pushing the line over, then, you know, it's not a big deal, but at least in this case, if you don't want to use it, you never have to use it. All right, so I like that it's the manual. What else can we talk about? Pocket clip. Awesome, awesome pocket clip on this one. All right, a little bit different design here. I mean, overall look is different. Of course, having a smaller piece here for the attachment. I was originally concerned with it. I looked at it and thought, I don't know, it looks a little flimsy. It's been great. It works just as good as any other pocket clip. Tension's perfect. Not too loose, not too tight. Sometimes if they're too loose, what'll happen is if you get caught on something, most frequently if you're getting out of a car, it'll get caught on the seatbelt and it goes, and if you've ever had that happen, particularly with expensive knives, where you get out of a car or maybe you're walking past something and your pocket clip catches on something and you just feel that like, and then you take it out of your pocket and your pocket clip's like this, sticking out. What a crappy feeling. It's really horrible. And I've had it happen to me on many different knives before. But this one's perfect. You can see it is more lengthy. All right, the actual clip portion is lengthy. This is a bigger, heavier knife, so you don't want really a real deep concealed. You want a little bit something to grab onto, so in the pocket, it's gonna be about this much sticking out. As you can see, also there is a, you know, the standard lanyard hole in the back there if you want to add a lanyard. Now, if you notice, what do we have right here? That's right. And it's there too. And what do you know? It's on the back as well. So there's a little milling on the G10 portions. So this is swappable to right-hand carry, left-hand carry, tip up, tip down. All 4 positions, which everyone wants. We want the option to move our pocket clip around depending on what we want to do with our knife. Awesome. brand new from the factory, guess what? Right side carry tip up, which is probably going to be the most common preferred position. So another A+ from CRKT for listening to us, the consumer, and what we do. Awesome. I happen to know that a lot of the guys over at CRKT and the wonderful women there do watch YouTube videos, and they want to hear what we have to say. So when you comment, you make video reviews on CRKT stuff, just like any other company, they're listening to what you have to say. And if as a group the whole agrees on something or disagrees on something, they will make appropriate changes. So it's just awesome that they have that availability to now move the clip around. You don't see that on every single knife from every different company, but it's something a lot of people want. Going back to the blade, I said before, it is a high hollow ground blade, razor sharp out of the box, and like I said, a nice acute point on it. It's versatile. I think that I tend to prefer just a little bit more belly, a little bit more sweep on my EDC blades. People ask me all the time, and I might make a separate video on blade styles, pros and cons, maybe specific uses for different blade styles. Very specifically with slip joints, there's just a plethora of different types of blades, and they are task specific. Even though anything that's sharp and has a sharp edge will cut stuff, some blades are preferred for certain cutting tasks. But this one, as far as like people looking for perfect EDCs type stuff, it's going to get most jobs done. I just happen to prefer a little bit more sweep for slicing. But it doesn't take away from the fact that this is really, really sharp. The lockup's great on this. It's got some good heft. It feels strong in the hand. It's not too much else you really want to ask for in a folder. It's got a lot of what most people want, and me specifically, it's got pretty much everything. Like I said, the only downside is this one, the grip on the locks system. Wish that was either raised a little bit or perhaps maybe not coated, so it's a little more aggressive on the knurling. Not horrible to get to, it's just I have to be conscious of pushing down before I go up. Otherwise, I slip right off of it. But besides that, I don't know, there's not much I would really change with this. It's a fantastic design, it's comfortable, it's beefy, and it just looks cool. That's what I like in my knives. Sometimes you pick form over function. Sometimes you pick function over form. No one really wants an ugly knife, but then again, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And I happen to think this is beautiful, but it's also functional. So it's got a little bit of both. So anyway, pretty much it. The CRKT eraser, definitely, as far as CRKT stuff goes, one of my all-time favorites. This is one I'm not looking to get rid of anytime soon. And this beast is just as sexy. Look at those. So, all right, stop dancing. I'm showing off with people. So that's pretty much it, guys. You will see a review on the Foresight in the, well, foreseeable future. So that's all. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Sorry about the teaser yesterday. I know it was silly, but hey, I had a little bit of footage and I was kind of frustrated that I couldn't, do my review before I went to bed, because I really want to get a knife review up yesterday with the other stuff I was posting. And, it is what it is. So I got one today. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you soon. Take care.